Do you ever hear that weird click, click, click noise while you're 3D printing? Well, that clicking noise is most likely your extruder motor skipping. This extruder motor skipping noise is likely going to lead to you getting an under-extruded print. This is because the stepper motor itself isn't turning the proper amount. It's turning a little bit and then skipping and going back. We will go over the most common reasons that you might get an extruder motor skip. First of all, one of the most common reasons is that you have a very weak extruder, maybe one with no proper gear ratio, and it's set up in a bowed-in fashion. It's really difficult for those weak stock extruders you'd get on, a basic Ender 3 to push the filament at too fast of a speed. It's more than likely your extruder motor will skip because there's no real mechanical advantage and there's a long distance that the material has to go through to hit the hot end. So if this is the type of extruder setup you have, make sure you really slow down your print speeds. Another very common reason you'll hear extruder motor skips is that your first layer is printing too close to the build plate. This is normally only true for the first layer or two, but if you start with your nozzle too close to the build plate, the material is going to have nowhere to really leave the nozzle, and so your extruder isn't going to be able to push it out and it will skip. So to fix this, make sure you have the right initial Z height on your first layer. Next, along with the first tip, is just printing too fast for your extruder and hot end setup. If you don't have a really good extruder with a really good high flow hot end, make sure you reduce your print speeds a bit. Next, perhaps you just have a little bit of debris or something in your extruder or hot end that is creating a blockage or friction from the material being properly fed. This can also be just from a nozzle clog, so make sure you clear out your nozzle, your hot end, and your extruder of any debris. One other reason that isn't quite as common these days is your idler is either too tight or too loose. This is what is pinching your filament. If you're pinching it too tight, you're going to get extruder motor skips. Too loose, you're more likely to get slippage, but still you're going to want to make sure you have the right tension on your extruder idler. And then one other reason is if you have a printer that does not have an all metal hot end, one that can only reach around 250 degrees Celsius, make sure you push the PTFE tube all the way down until it sets where it should. If there's a little bit of gap, your material can expand slightly and then cause friction and then, get under extrusion or these extruder motor skips. And finally, a really good extruder with a great gear ratio and a high flow hot end and nozzle combination will also help. So remember, the biggest tip is slow your print speeds down, make sure you have the right distance between your nozzle and your build plate, and take these other tips and you should never experience extruder motor skips ever again.